What if the future of the world was buried under African soil? And what if one nation quietly claimed it all? How did China gain control of 70% of Africa's mineral backbone? Did the West lose Africa? Are Chinese loans building Africa's future or buying its minerals forever? If China controls the mines, the refineries, and the ports, who really controls the world's future technology? And the real question, can Africa break free before it's too late?
Electric cars, AI servers, smartphones, satellites, the future runs on minerals. And Africa holds the richest mineral belt on Earth: cobalt, nickel, lithium, rare earths, coltan, gold. But there's one problem. China controls more than 70% of Africa's mineral supply chain. Not through invasion, but through loans, secret contracts, and debt diplomacy. This is the story of the silent war for Africa, and how China won it while the West slept. For 500 years, Africa's tragedy has been the same: the richest continent, ruled by the poorest people. From Belgian rubber plantations to British gold mines, colonial powers extracted everything and left nations broken. But today, a new power has arrived. Not with armies, but with money. Not with force, but with contracts. China studied the mistakes of Europe and came with a new strategy called resources for infrastructure: roads, hospitals, railways, in exchange for mining rights, land leases, and political loyalty. The mineral that powers the world is cobalt. It's in every electric car battery: Tesla, BYD, BMW, Mercedes, Apple. And 70% of it comes from one country, the Democratic Republic of Congo. China saw this before anyone else. While the West argued about ethics, China moved fast. In 2007, China signed a $6.2 billion deal with Congo, the biggest minerals for infrastructure swap in African history. China gets cobalt and copper for decades. Congo gets roads, hospitals, and some rail lines. But under contracts, almost no one was allowed to read. Today, 15 out of 19 major cobalt mines in Congo are owned or financed by Chinese companies. And here's the twist: even if Africa mines the minerals, China refines them. 80% of the world's cobalt processing happens in China. That means, even if Africa tried to sell its minerals elsewhere, it can't. China owns the middle step, the step that gives minerals value. Rare earths are the vitamins of modern technology. You need tiny amounts, but nothing works without them. Fighter jets, wind turbines, robotics, missiles, electric motors, smartphones. China controls up to 90% of global rare earth refining. And Africa holds some of the world's largest untapped rare earth deposits. From Malawi to Tanzania to Burundi, China has quietly bought mining concessions, port leases, and export rights. The West calls it economic colonization. African leaders call it development. But the result is the same. China decides who gets Africa's minerals and who doesn't. China never asks, "Is your government democratic?" China only asks, "Can you sign?" This is how the CCP wins Africa. Step 1. Offer huge loans no Western bank will give. Step 2. Use Chinese companies, Chinese workers, Chinese materials. Step 3. Control mines, railways, and ports as collateral. If a country can't repay, China quietly takes control of the asset. Angola owes China billions repaid in oil. Zambia owes billions repaid in copper. Congo owes billions repaid in cobalt. These aren't loans. These are 30-year supply contracts disguised as development. For 2 decades, the West didn't take Africa seriously. Washington was fighting wars in the Middle East. Europe was dealing with crises, migration, debt, energy. Meanwhile, China built Africa's roads, ports, and digital networks. China financed 70% of Kenya's rail system. China owns stakes in South Africa's power grid. China controls 99-year leases in Djibouti and Tanzania. And now, when the West suddenly wants Africa's minerals for electric cars and clean energy, it's too late. China already owns the mines, the smelters, the logistics, and the political relationships. The future of the world runs on African minerals. But the question is, who will benefit, Africa or China? Many Africans welcome Chinese investment. Roads are being built. Jobs are created. But others warn, no nation ever developed by exporting raw materials. Africa must create its own refineries, its own tech industries, its own bargaining power. Otherwise, the continent will remain a supplier, not a superpower.
By 2035, the world will produce over 140 million electric cars a year. Data centers will double. I will consume more power than entire nations. And all of it will depend on minerals buried under African soil, controlled by China. The West calls it a crisis. China calls it strategy. Africa calls it opportunity. The world's next superpower may not be the nation with the strongest army, but the nation that controls the minerals needed to build the future. The mineral war has already begun, and Africa is the battlefield no one talks about. This is China's silent takeover, and the world is only now waking up. If you want more deep geopolitical stories like this, subscribe to the GEO Ledger, where history, strategy, and global power come alive.